Gonna be learning how to replace your front driver axle U-joint right there. It's gonna be making a clicking and grinding sound from the needle bearings when you're turning and driving. First step you want to do is you're gonna want to jack up this side of the axle or whatever side you're working on for the U-joint. And this is about the same procedure as doing your drive shaft U-joints right there, which mine look pretty fucked. So you're gonna want to jack it off, take your tire off, come under here, make sure you got a catch pan. You want to start taking these bolts off to your differential cover. Now the problem with this is this top bolt right there next to your track bar. If you have stock suspension like I do, it's gonna be impossible to get. So you're gonna jack the axle up, and then you're gonna want to jack the actual frame up to move that track bar out of the way. All right, now that I got all these bolts off, oh, and by the way, your gear tag will be right there on the driver's side along this top wall. I'll show you mine. A lot of times they're rusted pretty bad, and all you got to do is take some sandpaper or something to it. And as you can see, it says on the bottom over here, it says 3.73. So that's your gear ratio. So I have 373 gears in mine, and I'm not sure what these other numbers are. I'm sure you can look up what they are, but they have no importance to me. Probably won't even put that back on, honestly, since I know the gears now. So now you got this off. I want to take a screwdriver, make sure you got your catch pan, because it's gonna be messy. Take the screwdriver and wedge it in, and leave one bolt at the top. Just loosen it. Maybe it's not loose enough. I'll be right back. I know it's loosened now, so let's try this again. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get it one-handed. Oh, wait a second. Here. You might have to dig into the gasket a little bit. If you got a hammer, lightly tap it. You don't want to damage nothing. But you want to wedge this in here and basically pry the cover off. Looks like I'm gonna have to get a hammer to do it. So I'll be right back. All right, I was finally able to get a big BFH, if you know what that is. Big fucking hammer. Hammer in a very, very thin flathead. Because as you can see, that spot right here, I was going for a normal size flathead, but it just wouldn't go in. Finally, I was able to push it into the gasket. Now let's see if it's gonna come out. Oh, you can see it coming out right there a little bit. Oh, fuck, it stopped. All right, let's get this again real quick. See if I can set you up somewhere real quick. There you go, that's good enough. Also, another problem I ran into was taking this fill plug out. It's one fucking stuck bitch too. You might have to use heat for it. I'm gonna take it out and see if I can get it out after. Alright, here we go. Moment of truth. Ugh. No, don't drip on that. Alright. As you can see, mine's a 2002, and this is one awful thing to work on. It's a Michigan Jeep, so definitely got some rust in it. There we go. You know what? Now I might be able to fit the normal flathead in. Then I got it working stronger. It'll be able to really pry it out. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. There we go. Let that seep out real quick a little bit. And while it's doing that, I'm gonna loosen this top bolt a little bit more. It's probably not as loose as it should be. Oh, I can loosen it with my hands. I don't know why it's not wanting to. Oh yeah, that's loose. You know what? Let's loosen it that far. There we go. Oh yeah, listen to that. Just look at that old gasket peel off. Alright. Now let's take this top bolt out. Make sure when you're sticking your screwdriver in there, you don't want to be pushing real hard on your gears. So make sure you're aware of that and you're careful with that. Now when you get that last screw out, just toss it on over there. Now you can work your way all around to get it the rest of the way off. As you can see, there's no bolts left in there. It's still giving me one hell of a problem. So, let's get up under here real quick. There we go. Alright, let's take a look inside this axle, huh? Alright, let me clean off my hands real quick. Now, this gear oil smells atrocious. It's black. Again, it's a 2002. I just bought it last year. It's probably never had the gear oil changed. It's only got, when I bought it, it had 68,000 miles on it, so, you know, it's not too bad. I think you're supposed to change it every 30,000 or something like that. Let me hook this up and show you the gears and what everything is real quick. Let's see if I can set this back down in here somehow. Or stacked up or something. Alright. That'll work. So, you got, let me turn this hub assembly. Okay, so back there you got your ring and pinion, and right in here these are your spider gears. Now if you open this up and you got a locker in the front, then you know someone's had this open before, because they never come with a locker in the front. Only a locker in the rear. That's if you got the Rubicon. So, as you can see, my other tire's on the ground. It's not moving. But when I spin this hub over here, the gears move, except for this spider gear right back there, because that goes to that axle. So, and some people, they'll weld in the cracks here, weld it all to one another, and then weld it to your I forgot what that's called, your main piece right here. They'll weld it to that, weld all the spider gears together. You don't want to weld that center rod, and that'll give you a front locker, but that'll be permanent. Now other people just put in a simple lunchbox locker. That's more than enough. And yeah, if you want to, if your axle doesn't have a label on it for gear ratio, you can always count it and do the math. You can look that up somewhere. I don't know how to do it, and I'm not too bothered about it right now. But in case you guys were wondering, if you were wanting to do a lunchbox locker, take those two bolts off on each side, and this whole thing, you gotta slide the axles out, of course, but this whole thing slides right out. And unlike the rear, the front does not have clips holding in your axle shafts. So when I take the brakes off and the rotor off and everything and get it all loose and goosey and ready to come out, it'll just slide right out. What you want to do is you got two bolts back here, one from this boot and on the bottom boot. I already took them out, and they seem, someone's had this off before because there's anti-seize on them. Alright, now you just pop the caliper off. You're not supposed to let it hang. You want to support it on something like the lower control arm or something. And your rotor, take that off. And if you're like me and you don't clean your Jeep, you're going to have all this mud back here. So you're going to want to kind of just pick at it and just kind of get it all out. Don't damage the screw right there. Don't damage that. Just kind of scrape the excess out. And then you're going to want to take, there's 1, 2, 3 12-point bolts back here. You want to take those off. And then your hub assembly will come off. So let's get to that. Alright, so you want to take your axle nut off. And the 3 bolts back here, they were 12 points. Again, someone's had this axle out or something. But you can see that it's not, they're not in the best shape. So just be cautious. Use a 12-point. Make sure it fits real good. If you have to tap it on a little bit, that's what I did. Just a little hammer, tapped it on. And they broke right free. A little WD-40, let it sit for, I didn't even let it sit that long, like 30 seconds to a minute. Now you got that nut off. Now this should separate right here. All right, so what I'm doing is, you can see it's starting to separate a little bit there. Just taking a rubber mallet and just giving it a few good whacks to break the rust off. And rubber mallet, so you don't got to worry about missing really. And I mean, you don't want to hit those in general, but you don't want to dent up this either. It's really starting to come apart now. BFH, big fucking hammer, always comes in handy. Let's see if I can pull this out real quick. Just applied pressure from me pulling it while smacking it, and it came right out. Now your axle doesn't have a clip in there, so your whole axle is going to want to come out. So just be careful with that. Axle seal that they put on there, obviously it's not working too well. You could buy aftermarket ones for off-road that are really good. They press into the axle tube and they have grease fittings on them. So now you want to take these clips off on the inside there. There's these little clips. The easiest way is just screwdriver, hammer, tap them out, all 4, and then show you what to do after that. So you're gonna have to clean the crud out of there. It's all loaded with crud. I got 2 out already. I got this one started, and basically I'm just putting the flathead screwdriver in there and hammering it out that way. They'll come off pretty easy. Alright, so this is the noise you're gonna hear if your U-joint's going bad. Not the best noise. So you wanna get the ball joint, U-joint press. You wanna put it in on one side, this, and then the other side is going to have a hole in it to let it pop out, and you're going to want to pop it all the way out, that way you can pull this out. You want to do that to all 4 sides. So all my videos I try to do, you know, high schooler or young adult, doesn't have a lot of tools, isn't going to be able to use impacts or anything like that. So what I got here is just a Pittsburgh breaker bar on a regular socket from my craftsman tool set. I do all my jobs with this craftsman tool set. It's amazing. Occasionally I'll get another socket wrench or, you know, axle nut socket right there. You know, occasionally you'll have to buy something or rent it. Most of the time you can do it with basic tools. So as you can see, I don't have a vise, so you just cover the threads with, I got cardboard laid down with cloth. You do not want to damage those threads. If you damage those threads, it will not go back into your axle. You will not be able to put it through the spider gears, and you're not going to be able to drive. So I got it like this since I don't have a vise, so that when I pull up on this, all the pressure is going right into the ground. And you're okay to step on this to help keep it still, and just push it over. And usually, there it goes. Usually you might have to work on the angles, get the angles just right. Have someone else hold it, you know, step on it, make sure that you're keeping it straight too. But this is just me. And you know, I mean, if I'm not trying to toot my own horn, I'm a pretty big guy. I'm a 5'11" and 227 pounds. But if you ain't got somebody and you're smaller, you're gonna want to get somebody. I'll come back when I got it apart. All right, so my best technique that I found to do this is hook it all up just like this. You want this on top because you want the pressure going down on it. You don't want to be lifting this up. It's gonna be a lot harder. You're gonna want your threads covered. Now, you can step on this too, and it'll help keep this straight, and use your momentum to push all your body weight to push down on it. And I got a pretty loud pop, and as you can see, there's a gap there, and it's coming out. So now you just want to keep doing this, keep spinning it as much as you can. As much as you can. You don't, and since you're on the ground, you're gonna have times like this too, where you can't get down all the way, so you're not gonna be able to spin it around. I mean, if you guys can't figure this out, you just take the nut off and rotate it a little bit. And you shouldn't be working on a car or a Jeep. I'll pick it back up, step on this, and use your body weight. There we go. So now it's almost all the way out, and that's my technique of doing it. So I found the culprit, and as you can see in here, this little head. See if I can zoom in and get focused. You got all these needle bearings in there. This is pretty greased up. This one's pretty not bad. So you got all these needle bearings in there. You want to make sure they're all good. I mean, you're going to be replacing it anyways, but you're going to want to find out where the noise was coming from exactly, because if it's not coming from your needle bearings, you got a bigger problem. So I was able to pull that one off, and looky here. Let me rotate it a little bit. You can see little chunks of metal coming out. Let me get it refocused. Little chunks of metal in there. Those are needle bearings all ground up. That's the culprit. So that's one of my needle bearings. And the rest are all over the floor, because they finally were able to come out. Yeah, there's no bearings left in there at all. So you want to press it, after you got this off, press it back. Now you can take this cap off, then you got to press these two out on these sides and do the same thing. All right, so don't do what I did. And I didn't make sure this circle hole was aligned enough to let that cap out. So when I was pressing it out, I blew the top of the cap completely off. So it's still pressed in there. And I don't know if I'm gonna be able to push it out. Hopefully, we're gonna try. So basically, this is the cap that's pressed in there. And this whole top blew completely off. So I'm hoping I can get it out. All right, it's getting later in the day. Snapped another head off, or top off. I'm not worried about it. I'm just gonna keep pressing through it and knock it out later. I'm tired of this. All right, it's finally broken apart. Got all these needle bearings and rust particles down here. Those are the only two that came apart decent. The other ones, all the tops broke off. And you can see the only decent one that was left was this one right here. The other three were, look at that. Oh, that's just all ground up. Not even smooth anymore. Wow. So, and then here's the new one. And when you buy these, I always buy lifetime. Whatever I buy lifetime. There's no point in saving a couple dollars, especially if you're building your dream vehicle or something. You want to keep every, you're gonna replace a few things twice if it's your dream vehicle. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this out of the bag without it fucking up. All right, so here's the new one. Now, first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that all the needle bearings are, every cap. You want to make sure all the needle bearings are in there. It's nice and greased up. Should be clear grease. And lifetimes will never have a grease fitting on them. Only ones that'll have grease fittings on them are if you get like the 1-year warranty ones or whatever. But it should last a while. I mean, they're not gonna sell you a lifetime warranty if you gotta replace it every year and you get the replacement for free. So now we gotta work on putting this in. How you put this in is you take all these caps off, you put these connected to both of those down there, and then you gotta press very, very lightly, press these caps in. You don't want to bust them, the tops off like the old ones, because then you're fucked. So let me get this in and I'll come back to you. So what I did was I just put it in the press with a flat piece on the bottom instead of the gap. It's flat. And just pressed it in ever so slightly. You want to make sure that when you take it out, it can move freely. All right, so what you're going to do now is you're going to want to just slowly, very, very slowly and easily guide it through that hole as straight as possible, because there's an inner seal in there that you do not want to knock out. So let's see if I can set this up real quick and get a video of me doing it. How's that? Okay, it's right there. You're gonna probably also want to support it behind the steering knuckle. And then I got it in. I can tell my drive shaft's moving a little bit. Should fit all the way in. And again, this dust ring, I forgot to show you guys. You gotta probably bend it up installing the U-joint. It's not real important, but you might want to bend it back. Helps a little. Alright, so now let's install this hub. Now you're just gonna want to put this ring back in. Helps keep everything sealed. And then just put this bolt on. Now, I don't have a torque wrench with me, and I don't know what the torque is for this, but I remember roughly where it was and how tight it was. So if you don't got a torque wrench, remember how tight it was roughly. Also, pro tip, if you're tightening this bolt down, let's get this socket on it. If you're tightening this bolt down and you go to turn it, oh no, everything's turning. Well, you don't have a locked diff in the front and it's in park. The best thing to do is go over to the Jeep and pull it up into 4-wheel drive. Now that it's in 4-wheel drive, it won't move. So now you can tighten it. Okay, hub's on. It's relatively flat. I mean, there's still gaps in some places, like right there. So what you're gonna wanna do is thread in all the bolts just a little bit at each time, and it'll pull it flat and flush. So just a little bolt, sticks out a little bit, bring this one in to stick out a little bit, and come down in here and get this one to stick out a little bit. And this one could probably be done by hand, because this one's pretty flush. All right, do that. I don't know the torque again, so just gonna snug them up how I feel comfortable. Okay, so use some RTV, some gasket maker, because they don't make gaskets for the Dana 30 apparently no more, or something along the lines of that. You gotta fucking special order them. O'Reilly's definitely don't carry them. So you get the diff cover on. A little bit of gasket maker there. You want to tighten the bolts down to about hand tight after the RTV's in there. It should seep out a little bit, like you can see. You want to go lines and then around. Line, round, like that. And I don't know what the torque specifics are for them. I just tighten them down again until I feel comfortable with it. You could probably rent a torque wrench and look up the torques, but I'm not too worried about it. So now we're gonna go ahead and fill her up with gear oil. And this takes 80W90, just gear oil. Takes 40 ounces, and they only sell it in 32-ounce bottles. So that's always fun. So let's go ahead and start filling this up. You're gonna want to fill it up till it starts just dripping out here, overflowing a little bit. So that's your fill line right about here. There's a steady stream coming out now. Obviously filled it. Decent amount. Now gotta find my cap, which is right here. Put your cap in. There we go. Now, to tighten down your cap, you're gonna need a 3/8 socket wrench with no socket on it. Take the socket off, if I can fucking get it off here. God damn, hands are really fucking oily. There we go. All right. So you take the 3/8 socket wrench, you put it in the square hole, and you tighten it down. And again, don't know the torque for this, don't know if there is one, don't know if there's not one. I just know that it was fucking hella tight when I took it off. So I'm gonna tighten it until I feel comfortable. Or until the paint is not visible anymore, because that's how I know how tight it was or how far down it was. But that seems good. And that's how you do your U-joint and change your differential fluid on your 1997 to 2006 Jeep TJ.